The following program is paid for and does not necessarily reflect the views of 1110 AM.
More Gary Moore. Hey, thank you. Aloha and welcome, everyone. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, now in our 10th year of broadcasting. Each week, we continue to talk story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and staff to find out how they're working to support those with needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, please stop by Pacific Source's Cabinet and Appliance Showroom located in the Waikapu Bayshard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. During this hour, we're going to share some of the experiences of our nonprofit agencies and just how they're changing lives, changing communities, and creating miracles of hope for those with needs. Today, we're going to start off the show talking with Mary Leva, who's the Community Liaison for Partners in Development Foundation, which is the Hui Ho'omalu program. And I guess the quickest way to say what that's all about is we're talking about resource families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and resource families are what used to be known as
foster parents.
Foster parents, right. See, I wasn't going to say that, see.
You're doing so good. You
I'm
even got
getting
my
there.
last name.
I know. It's scary, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. Woo! It's May 1st. What can I say? May Day is Lay Day.
Oh, my goodness.
I had to get Leva right.
That's right.
Okay, so what have we got here in Maui County?
Just a lot of stuff. Before we get started, I just kind of wanted to share some data with you so that we don't run out of time, because we always seem to run out of time. So I'm just going to quickly share some data. This is about 2 months ago, so it could be a little different, not at the moment. So we have 177 kids in care. 47% of those kids are of Hawaiian descent. 29% are on the age of 0 to 3. 20% are teens, so we need a lot of homes for the young ones and the teens. 19% are in Wailuku. 14% are in Kahului. 16% in Lahaina, and 11% in Kihei. And the other small ones are in Molokai, Lanai, and upcountry Makawao, Paia area. So I just got the big percentages for you.
It's actually gotten spread out a little more than it used to be, because it used to be a lot in central.
Yes, yeah.
Kahului and Wailuku.
Absolutely. It used to be very, very condensed here in Wailuku and Kahului. And it seems like we are more in need in Lahaina now these days. And I think that's just because of the growing population in Lahaina. And there's also a bigger minority community out in Lahaina now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it just, it's changing, but we're always still looking for more homes. And that's the main thing we're trying to do.
It's just, so 177 kids are in care.
Yes.
How many are waiting, or how many do you...
We can't per se
Okay.
exactly, but so there is 2 different kind of foster parents. So there is the general license, which is the public, and they can take care of kids that are not related to them. And then we have child specific, and those are the ones that are taken care of by family members or friends. And then so it's kind of divided between those 2. I myself recruit for general license, so you're taking in a child that you don't know. And our partner agency, Catholic Charities, recruits for, or they don't recruit, but they get referred from the state for child specific.
Okay. So is the licensing procedure hard?
I think so. I mean, you do have to kind of give up a lot of information about yourself. We initially meet with myself, and I come out and talk to you about the application process. And we look at your income, just because we want to make sure that, you're able to feed another mouth, obviously. And we want to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with another child in your home, especially here in Maui. It's expensive. So we do look at your income. We do look at your home. We make sure that your home is suitable for an additional child. And the children can share rooms. So we have families that have children of their own and then they can just share rooms. But 0 to 6, they can be opposite sex. And then 6 and above, they have to be same sex.
Interesting. Okay. And I'm sure that creates a real serious issue for you, in that so many of our families are multiple generations in households. Finding someone who has their own house, because you don't want to get into that situation, right? I mean, where you're one of 3 families living in this house.
Yes. Well, we have some situations like that, and it's okay. Every adult in the household has to have a background check.
Oh, okay.
So we make sure everybody has a background check, and we make sure that everybody is run through the National Sex Registry and through the Child Abuse and Neglect Center, and we also make sure that they are all TB tested. So they, again, as long as the child is able to have a space, a bed of their own, and a place where they can store their items, we will work with the family if there's multiple families living in the home.
Okay. And then one family would be designated as the
primary.
The primary, so they don't all have to go through training or...
Yeah, exactly. So there is just one resource caregiver family, but everybody else in the household still has to get fingerprinted and TB.
Right. Okay. So you're not introducing more problems.
Yeah, that would be a pretty hectic.
Okay, but it's nice to know that there's an opportunity there for someone if they want to become a resource caregiver and have the facilities that are needed for it. To go back for what started at the beginning kind of thing here, where's a child coming from that's going to go into a foster family? Or
the child is usually removed from their birth parent or their birth family, and the reason of the removal is different in every case. It's usually neglect, abuse, or just drug abuse, or it just depends on the situation. But the reason why they're removed is because the situation that the child is in is not safe for the child. And so they're removed, and the state takes the child away from their parents, and they become like the child's state, I guess, or cared for by the state.
A child of the state. Gotcha.
That sounds bad.
So it doesn't come out right.
I know.
So, but... and then what, a plan is put together as to what this child needs?
Yeah, so they come into care, and they are placed with a social worker, and the social worker is the one that makes a plan. So they make a plan for the child, they do visitations with their birth families, and then the birth family or the birth parent is also put in a plan. So both are put in a plan so that reunification is the objective of the whole process. As long as the parent does everything that is on their checklist and they are able to be compliant with whatever the judge has set, the reunification happens. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years. It all just depends, and it's a case by case. And we can't say like how every case is the same.
Right. Or it could not work out at all.
Yeah, and if it can't work out, there's also a process for that. So basically the process is both sides of the birth mom and the birth dad, like family members get asked, do you want to care for this child? Do you want to adopt this child? And if both sides say no, the resource caregiver is asked if they would like to adopt the child. If the resource caregiver says no, just for whatever situation, a different resource caregiver is also asked.
Oh, okay. So you kind of stay within your system or your group of people that you've worked with.
Right.
So that you know they're going into a safe home. Otherwise, you have to start the process all over again. But there's other relatives. I mean, do the relatives have to go through any of the same kind of background checks?
Yes. So if they're fostering in child specific, they have to go through everything that we go through. So the application process, the assessments, the training, the home visits, all of that. They have to go through it. But the difference is they're already placed with the child most of the time. So they're doing it while they already have the child.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I was just looking at a number across the state. They're talking about 1,200 children. Has that gone up?
Yes, it has. I believe it's around the 1,500
Oh my
now.
gosh.
Yeah, so that's across the state.
Right.
And we have a growing population as we were talking
Yeah.
earlier, and I think majority of it is in the denser states, so probably Oahu and the Big Island. Maui
Okay.
is growing, and Maui includes Molokai and Lanai, so that kind of increases our numbers a little bit.
Yeah. The abuse that you were talking about, not necessarily physical to the child, but it can be mental abuse, or it can be abuse within the family that the child has to put up with or see or hear.
Right. So usually it's domestic abuse, or it could be physical abuse, like you said. One of the main reasons why a child is removed is if there is physical abuse in the same room as the child.
Oh,
So if it happens in the other room behind closed doors, there might be a possibility that the removal won't happen. But if it happens in the same room, there's a definite cause.
I see.
And removal doesn't happen like right away. So what initially happens is that somebody will report whatever is going on, usually a teacher or somebody that's involved with the child. And then there's an investigation process. And during the investigation process, they really try to work with the family to kind of, start fixing it while the child is with them.
Mm.
And when that doesn't happen, that's when removal happens. And it does, like, they don't get a notification and say, hey, removal is happening on Wednesday at 8 a.m. That's not what happens. It usually just happens because of something else. Like, there could be an altercation. There's been removals because a 2-year-old is found walking down the streets without supervision. So that's neglect, right? Nobody's seen that child. So every situation and every case is so different. But usually removals are uncertain, and they happen without knowledge of the child and knowledge of the birth parent.
So it's like an immediate, right now it's going to happen.
Exactly. So it's very traumatic for a child. I mean, it's just traumatic overall to be taken from your birth family and then being taken to an office or being taken somewhere with a social worker where they try to find you a different home with a complete stranger that you don't know.
Right.
So we try to normalize it as much as possible for the child with the resource caregiver.
If that's possible, huh?
If it is, but the resource caregiver has support from the social worker and support from other agencies, and they try to, in the beginning, it's hard.
Initially, I'm thinking about the younger ones. Like you said, you were talking about the younger ones and then teenagers. And it's like, I'm thinking, okay, the youngest ones must be the hardest because they don't know what's going on. And then I'm thinking, well, no, the teenager kind of knows what's going on but doesn't want it, I would think, would be the natural reaction. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they've been waiting for this to happen so they can get out of there.
Yeah. And again, every time it's so different. So I was just talking to a teenager about 2 weeks ago, and she said, I want it to be removed because it was crazy in my household. It was crazy.
Right.
And, she's placed with a great resource family right now, and they are working on reunification, and they are doing visits. So the child is able to visit with their birth family while they're being taken care of by the resource caregiver. And she's a little older. She's 16. So obviously, in her mind, she's seen and gone through things that most 16-year-olds haven't, and so she has a lot of emotions as to whether do I want to go back or do I want to stay with these wonderful people. So that's the case.
Wow.
It's always the child is stuck in the middle,
Right.
And it's like a bad divorce. So that's why we always encourage the birth family to become friends with the resource caregiver and to work together and co-parent so that the child doesn't feel like stuck in the middle, because they are going to love their birth parent regardless of anything. They love their birth parent, but they're also going to love their resource caregiver.
Right.
So if they both co-parent and they both get along, it's such a smoother thing for the child. And that's what the main goal is, the child,
Right.
not so much the
Right.
resource caregiver or the birth family.
If this 16-year-old is not removed from the family, and it really gets bad at home, I mean, what choices do they have? Run away? I mean,
Exactly.
become living on the street, living wherever.
Exactly. So either way, it's a lose-lose situation, and if a child is a runaway, so many things could happen to that child. So if during the visits, the resource caregiver and the birth family are able to work together and kind of co-parent, in a big word, I think it would be a better transition for that teenager.
Right.
Yeah.
Becomes an extra big sister, auntie, whatever,
Right.
in
So
their life that can give them stability and support.
That's the whole reason why we don't call the foster parents. We call them resource caregivers, because they
Right.
become a resource to the child, and
Right.
then they become a resource to the birth family, because the birth family can lean on that foster parent.
Right, right.
Then they become friends, and if there's ever a relapse or there's ever any situation like that, there's always that bond that they have, and it's just so much better for the child.
Right.
Yeah.
On that note, we have to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, your weekly radio show where we talk story with our nonprofit executive directors and staff to find out what's happening in their world. And today we're talking story with Mary Leva, who's the community liaison for Partners in Development Foundation, the Hui Ho'omalu program, and we talk about resource caregivers, otherwise known as the foster. What the heck? Fostering. The foster children program. As we talked before the break about the different scenarios, and during the break we were talking about how, for so many of us who grew up in families that were very stable, lots of family around to support, and it's just so hard to imagine that things can get so bad that someone has to be removed from the household.
Right.
And yet there's so many causes for it. And because everybody's different, different things affect people differently. Then you wanted to say something, and I kind of cut you off when the show came back on.
Yeah, so we were talking about how the children that do go in care live in a situation where they don't know what's going to happen the next day. It's this big uncertainty of, is mom going to be in a good mood? Is mom going to be in a bad mood? There's never any structure or stability, and that creates trauma in a child. So I'm just going to share a story with you. Like, just imagine a 3-year-old little girl, or let's say 4-year-old little girl. The mom is inebriated and she's sleeping the next morning, and the little girl is hungry. She'll go over and say, "Mommy, I'm hungry." And the mom will say, "Go feed yourself." So 4-year-old, okay, so cereal everywhere, milk everywhere, but completed the task, fed herself. Mom wakes up. She gets upset because the kitchen's a mess. "What were you doing? Why is it a mess?" Slaps the child, okay? So next day comes, same scenario. Mom is drunk in the morning, and the child doesn't wake her up. She just sits there and cries. The mom finally wakes up and says, "Why the heck are you crying?" And the child's like, I'm hungry. And the mom says, why didn't you feed yourself? So there's this, you
can't win.
You can't win.
The
right?
poor kid. Yeah.
And that's so traumatic for a child. So when they do come into care, we train our resource caregivers to create structure and to give that child that sense of safety, that things are going to be okay. And, you know, the parent is given a break, because I think parenting is so hard. And I have two of my own, and I'm like, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And the time is for the parent to kind of take a step back and take care of themselves and get themselves together, so that the child is able to also flourish in a home where she does have structure, you know? And then eventually reunification happens if the birth family is able to take all of the things that they need to do and become
more reliable, more supportive, more everything.
exactly.
That sounds like that was a single parent household.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And is there, I mean, I'm sure there's no well, I'm sure there are statistics, but it can be anyone. Single parent, could be multiple parent, whatever. I mean, it could be one child in the house. It could be four children. It comes in all shapes and sizes and ages.
Exactly. And I think like a lot of the children in care, those that come from larger siblings, they suffer from children caring for their parents. And so the older children will be the ones that care for the younger ones. And when they are placed in a resource caregiver, they have to kind of be taught to be children again, because a part of their childhood was taken because they're the ones that are being the parents. And so we talk to our resource caregivers about that, about how it's going to be hard to take in a child that's going to, you know, question your authority, because they were the authority.
Right.
So you have to kind of learn how to adjust to living with a foster child that has seen things that normal 4-year-olds or 8-year-olds haven't seen. And that's why we highly encourage not highly, but it is required that they do attend the Hanai trainings. Because that's what we talk about in the Hanai trainings.
Okay, and that is for the resource caregivers.
Yeah, the resource caregivers.
Okay, and is that an ongoing series of so many weeks, or?
It's every month, and it's about 20 hours total. Half is done online and half is done in person. And everybody that goes through our program is mandated to complete the training. And to be a resource caregiver, you can be a single parent, you can be same-sex couple, you can be, a normal mom and dad kind of family.
Now, I noticed one of the other things that's mentioned in your literature is the idea that on top of all these other things that change in this child's life, they may be taken out of their community and out of their school, which is maybe the one thing that was kind of a base for them. They could go to school, they were safe, they were learning something, they were with kids their own age and who didn't know all this was going on at their home. And now all of a sudden they're pulled out of that school and taken across town or across the island to another place. And one of the things that was very important, if possible, was to stay in the same, not neighborhood, but in the same community.
Yeah, that's why I read you the statistics per like little cities, just because it is so important to keep the child in the same school. Like I said, we try to keep some parts of their life as normal as possible. And those kids with large siblings, the older ones might be placed in a totally different home. And so if the social worker could connect the birth family so that the children could still spend time with each other too, because that's a huge thing. And I think the state really, really, really tries to keep the child in the same school, and they pay for mileage reimbursement so that the child can at least have that, because it is hard. Nobody wants to go through another traumatic event after they've already gone through a traumatic event.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, I remember like when people were moving from one city to another on the mainland when I was a kid. You know, you don't move when they're getting ready to start 8th grade. That's the worst you can do, right? Wait until they're, as a freshman maybe, but not as an 8th grader. And it was like, who was it said that I had a relative who had a great job opportunity, and he said, but I have to show up now. You know, we can't wait another 6 months until they're out of school and finish school or whatever. And so they packed up and moved, and the kid says, I'm staying here with Grandma and Grandpa. You can go. You know, and they finally realized that was probably the best thing to do, was to let them finish school where they were, rather than to introduce for the last 6 months of their elementary school or middle school times another school system. So, I mean, even for someone who's in a well-adjusted situation, that's traumatic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Lose their friends.
Well, especially as a teenager, I think you go through this thing of your friends are more like your family.
Yeah.
And so losing that part is really hard. And, you know, that kind of brings me to this. We're having movie night on Friday. So one of the kids in the movie is a teenager. So this is based on a true story. Really great movie. It's a great depiction of what foster care is. It depicts really well what the resource care family goes through. It depicts really well what children in foster care go through. And it gives both perspectives. So it gives the teenager's perspective, and it gives the younger children's perspective. You know, they have a teenager that wants to go and hang out with her friends, that is an excellent manipulator. I mean, most teenagers are good manipulators, but this one, she takes the cake. She's really great, you know. I come and watch the movie with us, or if you want, you can also. I think it's on. I'm sure it's on Netflix or something.
Someplace. What? And the name of it is?
It's called Instant Family, and we're going to be showing it at New Hope. And it's there is some language in there, so just for the young ones. I know some families aren't into movies with curse words or whatever, but it is a PG-13. So if you have a mature child, then it's okay. I took my 11-year-old and 6-year-old to watch it. My kids, we're open, so it's not a big deal, and they know that there's curse words, but we don't say them, so it was okay for us. But then again, it's for each its own, I guess. But just, it's a really, really great movie. Even if you don't come see it with us, just go watch it, and it opens up your eyes to, wow, like, it's really true. And you know what's so funny? One of the family members in the movie makes this comment and says, so the foster children are all fostered, and they're all having like a get together, and he makes this comment and says, oh wow, they're just like all the other kids. And I found that like mind-boggling, but then like that's the reality, like there's so many uninformed individuals out there that really don't.
They think the kids are different.
Right. And then at the end of the movie, that same guy and his partner decide to become resource caregivers.
Oh yeah.
So I thought it was just a really, really great movie.
So now the flyer that you handed me, and you've got the couple, and then there's 3 children. Are all 3 children
foster children?
Foster children.
Yes.
They have none of their own.
None of their own.
Oh, okay.
Just their dog.
They just have a dog, and what? I mean, that's. Are these 3 children related?
Yes, they're siblings.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's how they get. And I mean, we don't want to give away any of the story, so I'm not going to ask any more questions about it. But it stars Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne in this theater, and New Hope. This is Kahului.
Kahului,
right?
Yeah.
Where is Hanakai Street?
It's right on the industrial area by the car shop's place. Let's see.
Car shops.
You know where Toyota is? And
yeah.
Over there.
Oh, in that area. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and that's this Saturday, and the movie starts at 6:15. Do they need to make any reservations or just show up?
Just show up. We
Okay.
have a big space. And again, we're going to have a little area for the kids if you don't want your younger ones to listen to, part of the movie or whatever. So we'll do Play-Doh or whatever with the young ones. And then you guys can just come down, relax, have some popcorn, and watch the movie.
Cool. So it's free.
It is.
Donations to be accepted, I'm sure.
Yes, if you want.
Yeah. It's I mean, the couple, the picture says it all. I mean, it's really a great shot of them, and facial expressions is all the different things that are going through their minds. I think is what it's telling me anyway. So if you've had any thoughts about wanting to become a resource caregiver, or just find out more about it, what it's all about, it looks like a great way to be educated on it. And this is while it's a movie, it's a true depiction. I mean, you feel really good about the way it portrays everything.
I really do. I talk to resource caregivers about it, and they all say, I went through everything that couple went through. You know, like the young girl here, she just wants potato chips, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, that's it. Like potato chips, potato chips, potato chips. And the family struggles with, how do we introduce her to a new food, you know? And same here for a child. They want spam musubi for breakfast. They want spam musubi for lunch. They want spam musubi for dinner. How do you get them? And, you know, they come up with creative ways. And again, like, it's just the emotional stuff that the family goes through, too, is really, really well done. Like, the crisis of what did we do? I mean, this couple has no children, and then they decide to foster 3 kids. That's, like I said, I have 2 of my own, and they're 5 years apart, and I'm so glad, because there's just no way. I mean, but they do a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't help but wonder if this was the real story, what would happen past the point of the end of the movie.
I think it is based on a true story.
Okay.
So that's
what you do know.
Yeah, so that's what I thought was really, really great, that it is based on a true story. Mark Wahlberg is actually from my state, Virginia, and we in Virginia have a big, large amount of foster children. And so I did a little bit of digging into the movie, and that's where his passion comes from. He went to like elementary school and middle school in the public system, and they did a lot of research in order to get the movie done. And I thought that was really wonderful, because that's why it's so true.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of scenes in there that make you think, wow, if you can do it, I could probably do it too, like.
It's a big bite to take, but you can swallow it.
Exactly.
You can chew it up and swallow it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, again, this is Saturday, May 4th at 6:15. The movie starts, so get there a little early. Refreshments and snacks are available. It's free, and it's at New Hope in Kahului Industrial, behind all the car shops. I gotcha. At 349 Hanakai Street.
Yeah, just Google it. You don't need a map.
There you go. There you go. On that note, we got to take another short break, and we'll be right back.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, your weekly radio show where we talk story with our nonprofit executive directors and staff and find out what's going on in the world that they cover. I guess we call that the mission of the organization, and maybe a little bit of background on who the Hui Ho'omalu program is, how it got founded and started. It's about ready to celebrate its 20th anniversary, isn't it?
Partners in Development is.
Is
yes.
okay, the foundation.
Yeah. So we are, Partners Development is our foundation, and we are a program of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was started because of a need. It's that simple.
It is, yeah, totally a need. I really loved the mission when I started with this company, just because it is concentrated on Hawaiian values and that native aspect of bringing everybody together and keeping everybody together, which is kind of what Hanai stands for, which is to care for. And in the Hawaiian culture and in most indigenous cultures, that is the background. You know, we care for those that aren't necessarily related to us, or we care for those that are related to us, but we care. And that's what Hanai is.
Right.
To care for someone else, or to care for something.
As a community, we care.
Exactly, yeah.
And the now the state has something to do with the creation of this, right?
We are contracted by the Department of Health and Child Welfare Services, by DHS, basically. And so we are the master contract holders, and then we have Catholic Charities, which does child specific, and then we have Family Programs of Hawaii that does the support. So after a family is licensed, Family Programs of Hawaii jumps in, and they're the ones that run the warm line. They're the ones that provide support and training for a foster family once they're licensed. They have the support groups that run every 6 weeks, and they also come in with quarterly trainings that are related to children in care. Like, there's a great training about how trauma affects a child and their development, or how trauma changes a regular teenager, or how bullying is affecting children. You know, just trainings that kind of resource caregivers need. And I, as a parent, actually really enjoy it, because it's not, you don't have to be traumatized in order to learn about bullying. It affects all children, especially with social media. So I really, really think that Family Programs of Hawaii does a really great job of bringing in great trainers that inform our resource caregivers and service providers about things that are going on.
Right.
Yeah.
The and bullying. I mean, that's the topic of the day. Yeah, that look you just gave me says it all. It is so pervasive. I mean, it's it's not just something for children. We see a lot of bullying going on amongst adults. That's a whole nother world that we haven't even gotten into at this point.
Right.
And I don't know whether these people were bullies earlier on in their lives, and it's just the way they have become, and that's their lifestyle. But you do see it. I mean, I don't know. I guess we called it something else before. I don't know what, but I mean, I don't think it's something new.
Yeah, I don't think it is. But children in care, they really know their reality. So a lot of times when they are being bullied at school, they're able to stand up for themselves, and they know their own reality, that they are children in care. They know that they're different. And it's really cool when they come to these support groups, because then they're like, oh, wow, you're just like me. And they become really good friends. Like, you can see it in themselves. They're like, we're alike. And they're like, I'm not the only one going through this. And it gives them hope in a way, because I think they feel different in their classrooms. They feel different with their peers, because they are foster children. They're the ones that are being picked up by auntie or uncle when the other child's being picked up by mom or dad. And so when they come to these support groups, they're able to really kind of have a connection with the other children.
They open up about what's going on in their lives and share.
Yeah, and they feel comfortable. They're like, I'm not the only one that's going through this. You're going through it. Oh, wow. It's really, really cool to see. I actually attend the support groups, and somehow I ended up being one of the child care providers, which is okay, but I get to actually see it. And I think part of it. Like, I'm not addicted to anything, but I've been in social work for a really long time. And I think that's part of my addiction, to see like just a realization, you know,
Right.
whether you're a drug addict and you go through rehab and you become sober. And I was a part of that. That's like a huge high, you know, and then seeing a child be adopted, or just they came into the system and they were just like really naughty and beating up other kids, and then at the end they're just super happy. It just totally like makes my day.
They can be turned around.
Yeah, they can.
Just like your microphone.
It's like it's so cool.
That's exciting. And the support groups, they can continue in that as long as they're in the system, or can they continue beyond?
It's only while they're in care.
Oh, okay.
So the support system is mostly for the birth family. I mean, for the resource caregiver.
Okay.
So the resource caregiver comes with the child, and we take care of the children, and they have their support group with other resource caregivers.
Okay, so they share their stories and experiences as well.
Right, yeah. It's really, really great, just because they also see, oh, I'm not like alone, you know, I'm
Right.
not the only one who's going crazy. And again, in the movie, they have a support group, and they kind of go through that. Like, there's the first phase where everybody's like, oh, my kids are great, you know, they're totally fine. The 3 kids are great. It's their first week, right? And
Right.
then the next support group, they're like, oh my gosh, like, they're just children from hell, like, you know, like, so like they're able to get things off their chest, and then, you know, we take care of the children while they are able to have that time.
Wow.
So it's really great. I love the support groups, and I think that's a great thing for resource caregivers to have. And I wish all of our resource caregivers would be able to attend and get to know other resource caregivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great thing for just parents, period.
Yeah, parent support groups.
Yeah, just I mean, like, you know, we often say that just because you're having a kid doesn't mean you know what to do. There's no book that comes with the birth that tells you what to do and how to do it, because each child is different.
Yes.
They all have their unique qualities, and you've got 2, and they're probably not at all alike.
No, not one bit. No.
And any parent that tries to tell you that, oh, it was so easy after the first one, the others are just like that, I have not seen that.
I think, you know, like I said, parenting has been one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. And my daughter last year had a foster child in her classroom, okay? And she's gone to, like, a little, like, my husband will pick her up right before support group starts or whatever. So she understands the idea of it, you know, and I myself am adopted, so she understands that people don't have their birth parents. But I think becoming friends with a foster child for her really was like, but why? Why can her mom stop? You know, and then it opens up the realm of addiction, and it opens up a whole, and things I don't want to talk about with my 10-year-old, you know, like I don't really want to, but I think it's so good to talk to them about it, because they have so much more empathy.
Yeah.
And this year, so funny, the little girl is the queen of her court. So just complete beautiful story. She's
Yeah.
the queen, and my daughter is one of the princesses of
Wow.
the court. So,
What a turnaround, huh?
and yeah, she got adopted, and I actually, small world, so the family adopted her, and then they came back into the system, and they wanted to be general licensed. And we just got them licensing them for another child that they can care for after they adopted 2.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were child specific. The 2 girls that were adopted were their niece. And then they were able to adopt after 3 years or 2 years. And then so their license expired. Then they came back and they did the general license. And now they're licensed again.
Boy, thank God for people like that, huh?
I know, and this is they have 4 kids. So.
Oh, my goodness. Are they all in the same general age? Or is it like the typical family where it runs the...
So their oldest son is 12, and then they have a 11-year-old, 10-year-old, 2 twin 9-year-olds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Wow, that's a house full.
yes, it is. But they're so amazing. And the reason why they're doing it again is because they look at the kids that they have adopted, and they're like, why wouldn't we do it again?
Right.
Why wouldn't we want to change another child's life, even if it's for short term? Because they do support reunification. But even if it's for short term, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, some people just have a I want to say knack, but that's not a good word to use. Some people just have it in them to be able to exude that quality, where the kids just they know by example. They follow what the parents do, and that's in many cases, I think, some of the best education for children. Whereas the ones who have trouble at home, there is nothing to follow. I mean, or if they follow that, they're just continuing the cycle, as we say. But it's just, I don't know. It seems like it's so natural and easy for some people.
I always go home and think like, wow, that family is like beyond me. I couldn't do it,
Yeah, they've got it together.
But I think it's because, again, like kind of the spouse, the husband was adopted himself. And I, like you said, that's what it is. A lot of our resource caregivers, their parents were resource caregivers, or they knew somebody that was resource caregivers, or they hana'd somebody. And then a lot of time it's also because they really feel that this is something that they should do in their life. And I think that's great. We need people like that. Like,
that's wonderful.
I wish I could find a gazillion of them,
Well, hopefully we don't need that many, but yeah, it would be nice to have more than you've got. Let's put it that way, right? Because there's always a need.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about trying to keep them in a certain area of the island, because that has proven to be one way that this program works even better than basics. If someone is interested in learning more, you suggest they go to the movie Saturday night?
Yes, go to the movie, get a feel for it.
and then check in with you?
With me. And, we also rely on, like, just word of mouth. So if you just want to give me a call, 268-5122, you can. Or if it's not for you and you know somebody that you think would be great, refer them. And if they get licensed, we will give you a gift card for $200.
Wow.
So word of mouth is one of our main sources of recruitment. It's usually families that have done it or have experience with it that, convince other families to do it. And we really, really work on a lot of just word of mouth.
That's interesting. So now you said, I think at the beginning of the show, there's 177 children in foster care or in the system now here on Maui. How many families does that relate to? Because some are multiples and some are singular. Right.
I didn't bring that exact number for you, but I know that we don't have enough homes for the 177 kids in care.
Okay.
A lot of times kids are double bunked, and that's just not okay. Or sometimes they're placed in family members' homes that might not be the best. But, we have to kind of take what we can get kind of thing. And, like we have agencies that are out there that are helping. Like we have Village of Hope from Hope Chapel that they give out items to children that come into foster care. So that's always really nice. And we have Paul from Child and what does Paul do?
Oh, the Children's Justice Center.
Children's Justice Center.
Friends of the Children's Justice Center.
Exactly, and he's really, really great at, providing support for children in foster care too. So they work with the state to be able to support children in foster care.
Right. So there are times when, they have to get the child out of the household, and it becomes a matter of, okay, where do we take them? We don't have any place except families.
Exactly. So it's a juggling game.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's hard for the social workers, I would imagine, because they're the ones that are doing the placements.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And It's tough knowing it's a temporary thing, you hope, but it could turn into longer term, excuse me, if nothing comes up.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We're always, we want long term, obviously. We want to create stability for the child.
Right.
But at the same time, we do also have respite homes that take the child in just temporary until a more permanent home is found.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there is kind of a safety net there.
Yeah, we
For
do have
temporary.
some respite homes, yes.
Excuse me. Whoa. We're running out of time. What, any last thoughts you want to give us here before we close up shop, talking about the resource caregivers and the programs, foster care, and
Yeah, just give me a call if you just want to talk story. I can buy you coffee at Starbucks. Also, just come to the movie night and check it out. Or if you can't come to movie night, watch the movie on your own. We're actually just getting to license a family that watched the movie.
Oh, really?
And it motivated them to become resource caregivers. So that could be you. You never know.
Right.
Just like, again, my number is 268-5122. And if you can't do it, refer someone else that you think would be really great.
Right. And there's one thing we did not talk about, and that was that there is some support provided so that you can take care of this child.
Yes.
It's not like you have to stretch your family budget.
Yes, you do get paid room and board, and you do get clothing allowance for the whole year. And you also, the child comes with their own medical insurance and their liability insurance. So the child is taken care of by the state in a way, where, like I said, the resource caregiver's main job is to create a safe home with structure and stability for the child.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking with you today, and keep up the good work. How long have you been doing this?
I think I'm going in my 4th year.
Is it? It sounds about right.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I remember the first time you came on, you were scared to death.
Oh my gosh, I know, I'm scared to be recorded now. I'm still scared to death.
You did a great job. Thank you so much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Maui Nonprofit Notes is sponsored as a community service by Pacific Source, the builder's choice. Please give them a call at 986-0380 or stop by their showroom in the Waikapu Bayshard on East Oahe Way to see how they can help you with your building project. Pacific Source has been our sponsor from day one, and we thank them for their ongoing support. And to you, our listeners, we thank you for the responses our agencies get from you regarding the activities we talk about on this program. Oh my goodness. Today we visited with Mary Leyva, who is the coordinator for, the community liaison for Partners in Development Foundation, Hui Ho'omalu program, otherwise known as the Resource Caregiver Program for foster families. And learned a lot about what's going on there. Give her a call. Again, Mary?
268-5122.
If you have more questions, and see what, maybe go see that movie on Saturday night and see what you can find out, and maybe you'll find an interest in helping. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to join us again next week, same time, same place, when we'll have 2 other member agencies of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. Until then, I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific, and your host for Maui Nonprofit Notes. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. Aloha.